and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan, and today I want to talk about those high-risk, high-reward players. Those players that you can pick in your team. Sometimes they might go very badly, but in other times, they can completely revolutionize your game week, shooting you to the top of your mini-leagues. We're going to do this in the form of a risky pick team. We're going to put them all together in a team, a squad of 15. So hopefully you guys enjoy this one. If you do, drop a like, please do, and do subscribe if you want more daily FPL content. Let's have a look at this team. Alright guys, so we haven't actually spent all the budget on this team, but that's not really a problem. That's not really the point of this video. I'm definitely not suggesting you guys make this exact team, but maybe pick a few players out of this that I think could do really well. So let's start off in goal, and we're going to go for Johnston. Sam Johnson in goal. He's obviously the goalkeeper for Crystal Palace, only 4.5 million and 1.2% selected. So not too many people looking at this goalkeeper, but what you have here is an opportunity to pick one of those mid-table 4.5 million goalkeepers who could do really well this Premier League season. We often see that the 4.5 million goalkeepers from mid-table teams actually score the most points because their teams may not score too many goals and they kind of face a lot of shots from those more difficult opponents, meaning save points and bonus points are going to come your way every time you get a clean sheet. Now, Sam Johnson, we've spoken about him a little bit on this channel already. I do like the look of him as he does make around 3 saves per game, and he also keeps a clean sheet every third game as well, which is pretty nice really. So all in all, I think this is a pretty decent keeper to go for, but there is a little bit of risk there because maybe Crystal Palace have a really bad season, or maybe Guaita plays instead of Johnston. Now, I'm not convinced that's going to happen. I think Johnston is the main goalkeeper, but there is that small risk there, but you could be rewarded if you go for him, and you get to save a little bit of money by going for that 4.5 million goalkeeper. Into defence, guys, we have got Ben Chilwell, another player I've spoken about a little bit recently because I really do like the look of him. We saw in Chelsea's friendly that he was on both corners that he took from both sides when we saw that a couple of days ago, so that was really nice. Got an assist from a corner as well there, and he's been really attacking for this Chelsea team. We know Pochettino likes attacking fullbacks, and it does seem like there is a left side dominance, so the left hand side fullback gets up the pitch, the right hand side fullback kind of stays pretty defensively. So Chilwell is a lot of the time playing really more as a midfielder, so we've seen in the past that he does get goals, he does get assists, he can be really effective. If we add clean sheets to that as well this season, that's going to look really good. So Ben Chilwell, definitely a player I would be keeping a close eye on this pre-season, and look to put him in your game week 1 team. I think he is pretty much one of my favourite risks to take out of all of these players in this team. But we're going to go to the next one, someone a little bit riskier, Fabian Schär, a player we're not really talking about too much on YouTube at the moment. We're not talking about Newcastle defenders too much in general in FPL YouTube, I guess, and that's because these fixtures are poor. We know these fixtures are poor, guys. I mean, look at this: Aston Villa, City, Liverpool, and then Brighton. That is not the opening fixtures that you want if you're a defender whatsoever. So maybe Fabian Schär is not a player you want to have straight away this season, or maybe he's a player you can rotate with some of your bench options against those slightly tougher oppositions. But what we have in Fabian Schär is the defender who has the best chance of scoring goals. He has the best goal scoring numbers of any defenders. He's got actually quite wacky goal scoring numbers. You know, his expected goals is always really high. He's always kind of on those set pieces. He's going to be taking those headers, maybe takes the odd long distance free kick, often charges up the pitch and takes those shots as well, creates for his teammates a little bit there as well. So plenty of shots from a defender in Fabian Schär. You're not going to find a defender more likely to score a goal this Premier League season than Fabian Schär. And we did see for a lot of last season Newcastle solid defensively as well, so that could add to his ability to get FPL points this season. Are you going to take a risk on him this early on in the season? I don't know, but for 5 million, I feel like he is a really strong pick, but a risky pick nonetheless. And finally, we're going to finish off the defense with Diogo Dalot, who is a player nobody is speaking about right now, which is why I like making these videos so much, because we do get to explore some slightly different options. And the great thing about Dalot is, although he is risky, and that's kind of reflected with his low ownership, because I think we're all aware that Dalot could rotate a little bit with Wan-Bissaka. We're not 100% sure who is going to be the Manchester United right back. I think it should be primarily Dalot, but Wan-Bissaka maybe getting some of those minutes as well. But the thing is with Dalot is that actually he's a better attacking defender than Luke Shaw on the other side. So whilst everyone is hyping up 5.5 million Luke Shaw, Dalot's kind kind of getting ignored a little bit, even though his goal scoring threat is a lot higher. We see Dalot actually charging up the pitch a lot, getting lots of opportunities to score goals and take those shots and cross to his teammates in the box as well. He's a really attacking fullback and actually can be really, really effective when he is on the pitch. Just the case of when is he going to play. So you look at these fixtures: Wolves, Nottingham Forest. We could get clean sheets here for Manchester United, but it's the attacking returns that I'm really interested about with Dalot. He's a really underrated attacking wing back, which I know we all love attacking wing backs in FPL. Dalot is that guy. Are you prepared to take the risk on his playing time, though? That is the question, but the risk could be rewarded if you are prepared to go there. In midfield, I feel like we have to talk about De Bruyne. I mean, is he in anyone's teams right now? I don't know, but we know he is kind of back. He is likely to be available for the beginning of the season now, which is good news. Indeed, we've seen him well, he's been in the Manchester City squad in pre-season now, so we can be pretty confident that he's going to be ready for the start of the season. We've got some really good fixtures for Manchester City at the moment, kind of at the start of the season, but everyone is looking at Erling Haaland, and that's pretty much it. That's all they're looking at for this Manchester United team. So could we go elsewhere? Is there other opportunities for points? We know how good De Bruyne is. We've seen him score very good FPL scores in the past. He still has that creative ability, and he's a little bit cheaper than he was last year as well at 10.5 million. So maybe you could go there if you're willing to take a risk and try and do something a little bit different in the Manchester City team. But there is a bit of a risk here. Not too many other people are going for him, and there is always that slight chance that he might get rotated a little bit because of his kind of injury problems that he has had recently. So I understand why people might want to avoid him, but I do feel like he is being overlooked a little bit, and those of you guys who are going to take a risk on him could be rewarded. Heung-min Son up next, the 9 million man for Spurs, and we've seen in previous seasons he's been amazing. Really, really solid FPL pick. But last year, it just didn't happen for him whatsoever. It just didn't work out. But under a new, very attacking, very progressive Postecoglou manager there for Spurs, maybe we could see a revitalization of Son. And if Kane leaves the club, Son's going to be that new main man. Could he even be on some penalties there as well? Possibly. Might lose some set pieces to Maddison, though, which is a concern. But I just don't know how good Son is going to be this season. Is he going to have another season like last year? Is he going to be more of a main man this year? Is he going to be kind of reigniting his flame that he had in previous seasons? Everything is very, very possible with this guy. We know he has the talent. We know he has the skill. We know he has that ability. So will he do it this year? I don't know. It's a really risky pick, but we know what he can do. We know he has the potential to be literally one of the top scoring players in the entirety of FPL. Will it happen? I don't know. I'll leave that one up to you guys. What do you think about that one? Martinelli up next. He's kind of a little bit of a divergence from the Arsenal template, so I do think there's a little bit of risk there. Some people are a little bit worried about his minutes. Not necessarily that he'll be getting dropped or rotated necessarily, but maybe he won't play the full 90 minutes all of the time, which I think is a valid concern. But we know with Martinelli is that he is Arsenal's primary goal threat, so he is likely to be scoring the goals when Arsenal are scoring the goals. You know, if you're going to pick one player to score a goal for Arsenal, if Martinelli's on the pitch, there's a very good chance that it could be this guy. So that's why I think he is definitely a player who has a very high ceiling. And when a midfielder is a good goal-scoring midfielder and a high goal-scoring threat from a top team, you know you're going to get FPL points from them. Martinelli, for a lot of last season, was pretty much essential, doing super, super well. And he's only 8 million this year. That's pretty cheap, really, considering what he can offer. If he can continue his trajectory and continue to improve, there's no reason why he can't score 15, 20 goals this season, and if you can get that for 8 million, you are absolutely laughing. So a risk to go for Martinelli, go for something quite different, and take a kind of a risk on those minutes. But if it pays off, man, you could get some really good points there. Phil Foden is up next, and another Man City player. These Man City players in general are just kind of high risk, high reward. I could basically put the entire Man City starting 11, if we even know the starting 11, in this team, but I'm not going to do that. But we have got Phil Foden in here nonetheless. Great fixtures. Where is he going to be playing? Could be playing on the right wing potentially, but more likely playing in midfield. But we've got De Bruyne there. We've got Kovacic there as well. Not exactly sure if Foden is going to slot in straight to that Gundogan position permanently or not. If he does, that could be really, really decent, particularly with these fixtures. 7.5 million. If you feel like Foden is going to be getting more game time this season than he has done in previous seasons, then that is definitely a high reward available to you guys if you're going to go for him. We're going to finish off this midfield with Solly March, who is kind of the ignored man at Brighton. So many people going for so many different Brighton players, but Solly March, despite the fact that he was probably the best kind of attacking threat in that Brighton team for a lot of last year, he's kind of being ignored a little bit, 3% owned. So yeah, going for Solly March instead of Kaoru Mitoma, I do think is a risk. And I think the risk really with this guy is that you're going against the template. You're going against the crowd and you're going to try something a little bit different, but going in on the same team. But for me personally, there is no real reason when we look at this Luton Town game, opening game of the season, there's no reason to me why Solly March can't equal, match, or outscore Mitoma in that opening game. There's no reason to say that that can't happen. Now, as we get towards European football and the more difficult fixtures, we may see March rotated a little bit, substituted early, and he's not really been in the squad in pre-season either, so I'm not 100% sure what's going on there. Maybe some Brighton fans in the comments can enlighten us, maybe give us a kind of an update of what is going on with Solly March. Is he going to be available for the start of the season? I'm kind of hoping he has. I haven't heard of any injury issues or anything there really, so not exactly sure, but at the same time, what a guy. When he is firing, man is he firing. We saw that last season, scoring some mega scores a lot of the time, and you look at these fixtures and it really could go off for him once again. Really direct player, really attacking player, should start the vast majority of games for Brighton. Can't see him getting rotated really at all until European football comes into play. Maybe get substituted off early here and there. I can see that happening, but in general, I think he's going to be a really solid pick actually for these opening games, and I think a lot of people are kind of ignoring that fact, but hey, maybe I'm a bit of a Solly March fanboy. You guys know me. Going up front, guys, we've got Darwin Núñez. Now, that is a definition of a troll player in FPL last season at least, wasn't he? Man, he had so many chances to score and he missed them, but I was kind of looking through some numbers of Darwin Núñez, and he hasn't really got a history of being a bad finisher. In fact, he's a pretty decent finisher in previous seasons, so was last season a bit of a one-off, a bit of an outlier potentially there? Does he need to be playing in a different system or in a different position? Well, we've kind of already seen that Liverpool do seem to fancy him as the central striker in their new system going forwards. That's what it's been like in pre-season, and in pre-season seems to be a pretty confident player right now and getting those chances to score and putting them away, and actually Liverpool's primary goal scoring threat in that pre-season. Do you make that much of the pre-season data? That's kind of up to you, but I think there are positive signs for Darwin going into this new season. At 7.5 million, you could get yourself a real bargain striker from a top Liverpool team that will score goals. Like this pick a lot, but we do have to appreciate there is some risk there. And finally, we're going to finish off the first 11 with Ferguson. I've got to put up a couple of players here, but I have gone for Ferguson, who is interestingly 10% owned right now, which I can't really believe. I can't really believe so many people are this confident in Ferguson, because to me, when I look at this pick, this is definitely a high-risk, high-reward player, and there is some significant risk for Ferguson. I mean, we've already seen quotes from Ferguson saying, yeah, under De Zerbi this season, we're expecting a lot of rotation in the striker position. You know, I'm not going to be playing every game, is basically what he said. So if you want to pick a player who you know is not going to be playing every game, 10% of people going for that seems a bit wacky to me, but obviously there is a high reward there. We do see often that Brighton, even though they do rotate their central striker a lot, when that central striker is on the pitch, whether that's Ferguson or Welbeck or whoever else, whoever the central striker is, generally does very well. It's just very difficult to kind of work out which one's going to be playing at which point, and therefore, a lot of the time, they're kind of non-options in FPL. But if Ferguson gets a couple of games in these opening fixtures, you can definitely see him scoring 10, 15 points in any of these games. You know, Luton Town opening game, Ferguson starts that game, he could easily score a hat-trick in that game. I would not be surprised by that at all. And, you know, in that case, you're going to get some mega scores. But equally, there's a chance Ferguson doesn't even start. Welbeck starts, Ferguson comes off the bench for a one-pointer, and suddenly it's very, very sad times indeed. But that's the whole point of these players, right? That we're picking out players who are high risk, high reward. And Ferguson, I think, epitomises that in terms of those kind of players that I'm talking about. We have got a bench here, guys, as well. Some other options for you that I kind of thought about. So we got Flecken, obviously playing for Brentford, and we saw Raya, 4.5 million goalkeeper for Brentford last year, was the best goalkeeper in the entirety of FPL, scoring mega points throughout the year. Now, can Flecken be a decent replacement for him? Well, we'll see. He hasn't had a great pre-season, but Flecken has been given these assurances that he is going to be the new starting goalkeeper for Brentford. So can he get the same amount of saves as Raya? I don't know for sure, but he had a really good season in the Bundesliga last year. So he is obviously a very good goalkeeper. Maybe it's just been a bit of a dodgy time for him in pre-season, and maybe he's going to do really well when the Premier League season actually kicks off. But that is the risk. That is the risk that you're taking. A player who is not really proving themselves in a Brentford shirt so far, but they're only friendly, so does it count? That's kind of up to you guys once again. We got Nicholas Jackson here as well. Thought about putting Alvarez here, Julian Alvarez in here. But maybe Julian Alvarez, is he maybe too much of a risk? I don't know. But yeah, I could have put Alvarez or Jackson here. I've gone for Jackson actually because I feel like Jackson is a little bit more exciting as a pick because obviously a new player coming into the Premier League. Not too many people know too much about him, but did really well. Certainly second half of La Liga last year, playing for Villarreal, scoring goals pretty much every single game towards the end of the season. It really was quite wacky, and in pre-season he's looked the real deal as well for Chelsea, and Chelsea may have a really nice player on their hands. And since there is no other strikers at the club right now, well, right now anyway, then maybe Jackson is going to be nailed on to start against Liverpool, could do really well here, or, you know, maybe just in the games after that, West Ham, Luton, Forest, could do really well in those games as well. But I do actually quite fancy Jackson on the counter-attack against Liverpool, exploiting that kind of high line a little bit. I feel like that actually could work out quite well. So I personally would have no problem picking Nicholas Jackson and starting him against Liverpool. But for the sake of this team, when it was put basically between him and Ferguson and March playing against Luton, well, he goes on the bench in that situation, doesn't he? We've got Porro here as well, another 5 million defender who obviously had insane attacking numbers last year, but are we convinced by Spurs' defence? May take a little while for them to kind of get themselves into a kind of a solid team really under the new management. Not really fully convinced by their defence. I feel like there could be problems at the beginning of the season. I don't think they have quite the right profiles to fit the new Postecoglou system, and obviously they're very an open and attacking team as well in pre-season so far. So let's see what happens here. It might take a little while to adjust for Spurs, but certainly from game week 3 onwards, we've got the likes of Bournemouth and Burnley there. So maybe that would be a good time to bring in Porro or sub in Porro for some of your other players. If you want to take that risk, I think it's a good one. And I thought I'd also include a 4 million defender here, because I know we've all got our eyes out for those cheap defenders to put on our bench. And I think a high risk, high reward 4 million defender is Jared Branthwaite, who is a centre-back who did really, really well on loan for PSV last season in the Dutch league. He's come back to Everton now. A lot of people are calling for him to be starting regularly. Obviously, Everton have sold a couple of their centre-backs now, so the pathway is clear for Branthwaite. Young player, already done really well for a top team in Europe on his loan spell. Can he now come into this Everton team and prove himself? Well, why not? There's no real reason why he can't do that, but until the season starts and we start to see who Everton are lining up with regularly, there is a little bit of a risk there. But the ability to go for a 4 million defender from Everton, as opposed to the likes of, you know, Sheffield United or Luton or Burnley, I think there is a little bit of an advantage there to go for a 4 million defender from a team maybe slightly higher up the pecking order. But let's see how they do. Everton have got some good fixtures, but they are also Everton. But is that better than Sheffield United? Is it better than a Luton? Well, quite possibly. So in terms of 4 million defenders, high risk, high reward, Branthwaite, I think, fits that category perfectly. Now, let's throw a captain's armband on De Bruyne and a vice captain on, I guess, Martinelli. But what I want to do now, guys, is see the team rating on the Fantasy Football Hub at My Team Tool. I want to check this out because I have a feeling it's not going to be that high, because we haven't spent all our budget and we have no template players whatsoever in this team, so it could be pretty low. But I'm very interested to see if the tool actually fancies any of these players, thinks any of these players are going to do pretty well. So let's see what the AI thinks. Alright guys, so I have built this team in the My Team tool on Fantasy Football Hub's website. Of course, if you want to check this out and have a look at your own team's rating, you can go ahead and click on the link at the top of the description. You can check your team rating out completely for free, but if you want to use some of the other tools, there's plenty of really good tools on here, then obviously, yeah, you can pay for the full subscription if you want to. There's 50% off right now, so, you know, go for that if you fancy doing that, but for now, 83% team rating, which... to be fair, it's not that high, and I have said consistently, you want to be aiming for a team rating of at least 90%, in my opinion. Obviously, you wouldn't go for a team exactly like this. There are some players that actually look pretty good in the numbers. There's actually some of these players, the AI actually quite fancies them, and primarily I'm looking here at Martinelli, who's got some really good predicted points here. 5.9 against Forest, 4.8 against Palace, and 5.6 against Fulham. That's pretty decent, you know. If that's like the average predicted points for those games, you definitely take them for them kind of point scores for an 8 million midfielder there. Solly March, similar, slightly lower. Luton Town, 5.1 predicted points there. So really, actually, some good opportunities here, and there's some other players that look pretty good as well. Darwin Nunez actually looking pretty good. 6.1 predicted points for Nunez in game week 2 against Bournemouth. So maybe that's your way. If you don't want to go for a Salah, maybe that's your way to kind of attack that fixture without spending all of that cash on Salah and using up one of your midfield slots. You can maybe go for a different midfielder. So there's an option there as well. Some of these other players, obviously seen as a little bit riskier. So Fabian Schär, obviously with the bad fixtures, not very good at predicted points there. Dalot, similar situation with that rotation risk. And Chilwell in that opening fixture against Liverpool is obviously not expected to keep a clean sheet. We'll say that at the very least. But in general, I think there are some good players here, really. I feel like if we threw in Erling Haaland into this team and captained him, we could probably boost the team rating up a little bit, but I think in general there are some trinkets here. There's definitely some players that you could potentially go for from this team that could perform really well, and it seems like the machine learning predicted points tool pretty much says exactly the same thing, so yeah, it looks pretty good to me. So that concludes this video on the high-risk, high-reward players. Let me know what you think about the players we spoke about in this video. Are there any players in here that you would be willing to take that risk on? Do you think any of them are just far too risky? And are there any other players that maybe I missed out on this video as well? I'm sure that I've missed out one or two. You guys can let me know. Do make sure you like the video, subscribe if you're new around here as well. And if you want to get 50% off your Fantasy Football Hub kind of subscription, you can do so right now. Link in the description to check out some of their tools, and if you don't win your mini league, you get your money back for your full years of subscription. So you can get all of these tools plus many more tools on the website absolutely for free. All you got to do is fail to win your mini league, but don't fail to win your mini league, because you're gonna win it, because you've got me, you've got Fantasy Football Hub, and everything is amazing. But we're gonna call it there, guys. Thank you so much for watching once again, and I will see you later, mates.